Good afternoon, good evening, wherever you may be in the world. Welcome to the Sensitive Stability BPD live show. My name is Kevin Reynolds. For those of you who don't know me, I am a BPD survivor. I have been in full remission for over 7 years now. That means no symptoms, no episodes, no splits whatsoever. It wasn't easy to get here, though. I wish that I would have known how simple it was, but it wasn't easy. That said, most of us out there who have BPD don't really have anyone who truly understands. That's normal. That's a normal part of this. So few of the world are afflicted with this condition. The condition changes the way that you look at things, look at the world, look at yourself, look at opportunities, look at your relationship. It changes all sorts of stuff. So it makes sense that if every single part of the way that you think, good morning, Joel, thank you, every part of the way that you feel is manipulated and controlled by this condition, right? It would make sense that nobody else understands, wouldn't it? That's part of this process. For me, I spent a long time trying to help other people understand, how I was feeling, right? And I wish that I could have had those years of my life back. And when I say that, I mean it because all year, every year, for those years, and most of my life, I was so concerned with what other people thought. And I had to try and explain to them why I was the way I was, why I thought the way I thought, or felt the way I felt, or why I did what I did. And I was always trying to get everybody else to understand in lieu of trying to get better. That's a thing, you have choices here. Focus on the problem, focus on the solution. Those are the choices, and do nothing. That's a choice too, right? Usually means that you're focusing on the problem when you do nothing, though, in that scenario. Think Tank, good morning to you. What jobs are best for BPD? Well, that's an interesting question because I steered towards a life that made me more comfortable before I got better. I've always been an entrepreneur, right? But if I look as to why I'm an entrepreneur, it started out very early in life selling things to neighborhood parents, basically, door to door. I'm 38, so this is in the late 80s, early 90s. I did it, I think, because I wanted my parents' approval. They were very worried about money. So I was worried about money starting age 4. You know what I mean? So that people pleasing, trying to get that approval is one of the reasons that I went into entrepreneurship. Another reason that I stuck with entrepreneurship is because I've been working my whole life. I've hustled and run businesses since I've been very young. I think I technically kind of started my first hustle when I was about 6, right? And when I was a teenager, I was doing it. But the second I turned 13 and I could get a job, I got a summer job. And then I started working the summer job all throughout high school while still doing my hustles and stuff in high school. Then I got out of high school and I was forced, because I moved out right away at 18, I was forced to work a few jobs at a time to survive. And I pretty much quit sporadically or got fired from every single one of them. And BPD is definitely the reason, right? So I understand why you'd say one of the best jobs for someone with BPD. I think that you should definitely try to beat it because you can. And then you can work any job. But B, if you have to get a job, one that you are more accountable for yourself than for someone else might be a little bit better. So maybe something commission-based, maybe something that's a contract, 1099 position. Maybe starting your own thing is a good idea. Or something that involves less judgment if you're trying to get through this, okay? Because if you're doing something like that requires you to be under a microscope a lot, you're going to have more triggers. Now, I'm cautious in suggesting that type of mentality, though, because that type of mentality means that you are curating and building a world around you of which makes you more comfortable. Yes, and Judgment said night shift. That's also another good one. I would work night shift almost all the time when I had to get a job. Because there's not so many people, right? So you have less issues, less problems. We are incredible people, though. That's the thing here. We are incredible people with incredible skills and incredible talents and incredible abilities that other people just don't seem to have, right? So why would you want to waste that looking for something that's just going to further perpetuate the existence that you live now? Instead of focusing on trying to be comfortable, I would specifically focus on how I can not be comfortable. And yeah, maybe you do get a job and your BPD ruins it and you get fired. So you try again and you try again and you get more and more comfortable with it. It's called exposure therapy, right? If you don't, then you'll always be fearful. You'll always be sitting in what feels like a precarious situation. And you already feel that way at every other aspect of your life with borderline. So why would you also want to do that at a place like work? When it comes to work, I usually say to people, find something that you enjoy. Find something that you like. Find something that brings you actual satisfaction. Because if you don't, then you won't have the perseverance to see it through, right? You won't. You won't. So find something that's interesting to you. I think that would be a wiser type of mentality, even if you were suffering, full blown from BPD. You do want to get better, right? Well, you're not going to get better by avoiding anything that makes you uncomfortable. There's reasons why all these things make you uncomfortable. That was a perfect question for this. BPD is borderline personality disorder, my friend. It is a cluster B disorder that makes you very fearful, makes you avoid judgment. You don't want anything to do with rejection. You're usually very committed to one person. We call that a favorite person. Usually it's your partner. You live your life for every other person and for every other thing. And where's the joy in that? Well, it only happens if you're praised, right? It's only going to happen if you get appreciation, if you get recognition, right? If you get validation from whoever it is that you are associated with. That's how you end up feeling good when you have BPD and you are not getting better. We have to change that. If we don't change that, then that will forever persist. What you resist will persist. Okay? And I know the fear is scary. I get it. But you either take care of the fears or you let the fears take care of you. You see what I'm saying here? And the best things in life are always on the other side of terror. It's true. It's true. And in order to conquer your fears, you do have to actually turn around and face your demons. And yes, user, I was diagnosed with borderline personality disorder. The only difference now is that I've been in full remission for 7 years, over 7 years at this point, which means I don't have any episodes, any splits, and my definition of full remission means I don't have any symptoms either. The classic psychological definition of remission is that you have less than 5 of the 9 symptoms, which I think is just a really shabby thing to aim at. I know that the qualification is really meant to allow humans to have certain types of experiences and behaviors and thoughts without it being considered pathological in some way or whatever, right? Or neurodivergent, probably a better word for that. But if you can get rid of one of them, you can get rid of the other one. If you can get rid of the other one, you can get rid of the next one. If you can get rid of the next one, you can get rid of all of them. It's really quite simple. You just have to figure out what the path to getting rid of each of the problems actually is. Thank you for the roses, guys. Good morning to everybody here. I'm really glad to see y'all in here. I see a lot of the same faces. That's good. If you are making an effort to get better, then you will show up to stuff like this every day. And I mean, I hate to say it in such an egotistical way, but I do have the answer you need. I mean, 110%. There's no doubt about it. I know exactly how to get out of this. I help people do it every day, all the time. It's what I do. That's what I do now. And I never saw myself becoming a BPD coach. I never saw myself in that scenario. I think I was telling a story yesterday, or maybe it was last week. The days sort of blur together when you work as much as I do. Where I had said I was talking to a therapist before I was better. And I was a very successful entrepreneur, but she said to me, have you ever thought about becoming a therapist? And I thought, oh my God, that's so insulting. Like, I'm telling you about how I want to change the world, how I want to give free healthcare away, how I want to, make synthetic organs and make them free for the world, how I want to launch off this planet. I'm so miserable and build a Dyson sphere around some other star someday. Like, those were my dreams, I was telling her. And I was doing quite well for myself, you know? What I do now, coaching for BPD, does not pay like I used to earn. I had to take a dramatic pay cut and leave a bunch of other businesses and interests behind in order to do what I do. But this seemed like a moral imperative. This seemed like I had to do it. And this also seemed like the honorable thing, where I got more out of this, ironically, than I do out of making more money, right? So that would be another thing to think about when you're trying to think about a career or a job and you have borderline personality disorder. We spend a lot of time at work. Right? So you might as well enjoy it. I mean, if you're not enjoying what you do, fucking leave, I mean, why are you putting yourself through that? You could do a million and one other things. You could do what your heart desires. I did. I left behind all the things that paid me buku's amount of money in exchange for helping people like me get out of this miserable existence, which should also tell you exactly how miserable it is. Money didn't solve my problem. Definitely didn't. And I spent it all the whole time because I didn't really want the money. I listened to my father talk about how we have no money. I don't know how we're going to do this. I might as well just jump out of my car on the way home tomorrow. All sorts of stuff. So I grew up in a stressful environment where I was always worried about money. And I thought if I made enough money, if I was successful enough, if I was rich enough, that my father would be proud of me. And that was the real driving force behind all that, right? It's a real driving force. So let's see. I'm catching up on some of this. I see a lot of comments. Does it have anything to do? What's the difference between BPD and PTSD? PTSD is just a stress disorder. It is a response to trauma. Now, BPD, it is a response to trauma, and most of us with BPD have PTSD, okay? Borderline is a personality disorder. It has changed your behavioral traits at a foundational level. Two different things. Much harder to get over BPD than anything else on the planet, in my opinion. Saying some very wise things. Thank you so much. Does it work together with agoraphobia? I got diagnosed with agoraphobia, and I know many people that have, and I would say absolutely. Untrained, unskilled therapist might just diagnose you with agoraphobia or PTSD or bipolar, many other different diagnoses, because they're not as well educated on this, and that makes sense because not as many people have this, right? Not as many people have this. It sounds like I have another diagnosis on top of my bipolar, depression, anxiety, and PTSD. Well, Lauren, how I really look at it is BPD is the real diagnosis. If you have BPD, you have BPD, and you have everything else underneath it. You could get diagnosed with a million things. I had, I think, 11 or 12 diagnoses or something like that by the time I got my BPD one. And I was already almost out of it at that point. It took me 12 years by myself. But I didn't have anybody who knew. I didn't have anybody who understood. That's why I do what I do now. Because I thought I could be the person for other people that wasn't there for me. And I'm very good at it. Just keep going here with the comments. Judgment says, dude, it's better than most experiences. I'm not exactly sure what that one was referring to. Sorry. Simple is kind of insulting. Well, a lot of the stuff that I have to say would be kind of insulting. That's the truth. I mean, if I gave you the honest truth right now, it's hard to accept it. It is simple. It is. That's why when you see a therapist, they say, you need to just stop behaving this way. And you're like, oh, great, thanks for the information. And then you leave because you don't know how. Just because you don't know how to do something doesn't mean it's not simple. And I'm not attacking the integrity of your intelligence when I say it's simple, But that's the type of response that makes us treatment resistant. Because we go in there and we say something to somebody who's trying to help us, and then they tell us what to do, and then, we have something to say as to why we can't do it, or why we won't do it, or why they're wrong, or why we're right, or all this kind of stuff. The truth is, and this is the truth, and you can accept it and then get better, right? or we can hide from it and then continue to live a really shitty existence. That's what I did. I did that. I didn't get better till I was 31 and a half. And now a brief word from one of our sponsors. Just kidding, guys. It's me, Kevin, with Sensitive Stability. Thank you for tuning in to the Sensitive Stability BPD podcast, where we talk about a different topic related to borderline personality disorder in each episode. If you or someone you love is suffering from BPD, please don't hesitate to reach out. You can visit us at our website, sensitivestability.com. Click the contact button and share a little bit of your story, and we'll point you in whatever direction we can. Share this podcast with someone you know in need, and thanks for listening. Back to the show. But schizophrenia has some weird onset rules. And I can see it, and I have seen it in many cases, manifesting way later in life. You know what I mean? I've seen it manifesting in your late 20s and your 30s. And so it's difficult when you have something that activates like that at a random time. BPD is kind of like that too, but for most of us, it activates very early, and you don't even notice it because children throw temper tantrums, for example. Children are learning where the limits are. They're trying to push boundaries and challenge you to give them that candy bar in whatever way they can get it. They haven't learned yet. And then when a parent gives the kid the candy bars, right, and result to the temper tantrums, or gives them comfort, when it's not warranted in some cases, or gives too much comfort when it's, not necessary, when they need to learn, you end up with these kinds of paradigms, these kinds of delineations of these conditions. So instead of worrying so much about whether or not you will get something or you have something, I would say let's try our best to skip past the labels, instead just focus on the behavior. Because I wasted so much time trying to get the label, right? I just wanted to fit in somewhere. I wanted to know this is it, this is what it is. And then by the time I really identified with it, nobody really wanted to give me a diagnosis anyway. Half of them were like, we don't want to put labels on things. And they said it in a way where it felt like they just didn't know what to do. I'm telling you not to focus on labels because it was a waste of fucking time. There's a big difference in those pieces of advice. The other half, they didn't want to give me the diagnosis, because they know how damaging it is. They know about the stigma. After I got the diagnosis, it was very hard to find somebody who would work with me. All the people who claimed to be BPD specialists, I didn't feel like they knew what the hell they were talking about. All these things bothered me. You know what I mean? Made it very, very difficult. And it added extra it was more convoluted. It added extra confusion. So I don't think you should focus so much on hoping you might not get something. By the way, I do help people with schizophrenia as well. I'm quite good at it. I help with all types of mental stuff. But BPD is just my specialty because that's what I prominently suffered from. But I've helped lots of people with lots of things. You could be anything is my point, even something like schizophrenia. Hey, where are you from, man? I am from Virginia in the United States. That's where I was born. That's where I was raised. I've lived many different places, mostly as an attempt to escape my life and my existence. So very cultured in a way, I guess you could say, which was a plus that came out of that. And that's how I like to look at everything. Constantly be looking on the bright side. You have to. I mean, you go to jail, at least you're going to get fit, write a few books, and maybe earn a few degrees. You know what I mean? Like, you got to look at it that way. You're going anyway, right? You're going anyway. You're going to go to this event. You're terrified. You don't like being around a lot of people. Well, maybe this time you can focus on making one person's life better. Ralph Waldo Emerson said something along the lines of, if I made an impact on one person's life, I think what he said was, if I make one person's life easier in my lifetime, then it was worth it. And that's a hell of a statement, because it's not that hard to make somebody's life easier. Is it? I mean, is it really? Is it hard for you to make your wife or husband or your partner or your kid or your parents or your friends? Is it hard to make their life slightly better today? It's not really, right? I mean, all you really got to do is pick up that phone and call that person that you know you should be calling, right? See what's going on with them. That makes their life a little easier, a little better. And that makes you feel good. And that is one of the golden tickets to getting out of this condition. It's you want so badly to live for this other person so they'll tell you how great you are, but you're giving for the wrong reasons. You're calling because you're hurting and you want someone else to help. You're there for somebody because you want them to say, "I'll never leave you. You're the best friend I ever had." You're nice to your wife because you want her to say you're the best husband in the world, right? But it doesn't even help when they say it. Have you noticed that? There's a couple reasons for that. Firstly, that is superficial validation. I tell my wife, "You look great in that dress, babe." She's going to take the dress off and put it on the left side of her closet. People like this dress. I'm going to wear that dress more often. I get compliments. That's nice. Fine. The dress looks good. You look good in it. That's great, right? So that's superficial validation. Now, if I were to say to her, "Damn, babe, you look good in every dress you put on. Put this one on. Oh my God, you look great in that one too. Oh, I bet you look better than the models." That's different. She's not going to go home and take all three dresses and put them on the left side of the closet. She's just going to say, "I'm a woman who looks good in any dress." That's real validation. That's different. That is a different type of feeling. My wife will tell me all the time, "I love you. I'm never going to leave you." I always wanted her to say that. She says it all the time. Why do I not feel good about that now? I mean, I feel good about it, but why is it not giving me that same dopamine hit that I was getting when I was searching for it, looking for it, prying for it, fishing for it? It's because that's superficial. You don't know that person's going to stay forever. I mean, how can you predict the future like that? It's nice and romantic to think about things like that, but what if you turn into a total a-hole and, if I were to beat my wife every weekend, should she stay? Well, of course not. That's abusive, right? Well, but unconditional love, and she said she'd never leave. You know what I mean? I know that's a dramatic, exaggerated example, right? But every once in a while, a couple times a year, my wife will come to me and she'll say, "Kevin, thank you so much for taking care of me. You are such a good provider." And that one shoots an arrow straight to my heart. It just, and I never forget it. No matter how many times that happens, a couple times a year, I never forget it. What's the difference? The difference is I earned the second one. I earned it. I didn't fish for it. I didn't seek it. I didn't ask for it. I didn't pressure her. I didn't tell her she's not doing a good enough job, doesn't love me enough. Do you really care? I did action. And then I got rewarded in a way that told me I am a good person and other people can see it. And the whole while I know I'm a good person because I'm doing it. I'm taking care of this woman. I am a 38-year-old man who can take care of people. That is part of my identity now. It never used to be because I was so unreliable. Even though I made tons and tons of money, it wasn't stable. It wasn't secure. It didn't feel good. It wasn't happy. There was no joy. So there was no room for me to get that praise. Okay? You have to start looking at the behaviors and what you can do to modify them to get the outcome you want. Everything in life, it's kind of like a math equation. And there's variables, right? On the right side, there's the output, there's the result, there's the solution. What are you getting over there? Are you happy with it? Okay, then you got to change the variables. And I know that you want to change X and Y, but X and Y are what your partner contributes to the equation, what your family contributes, what your friends contribute, what happens at your work. You can't control some of these things. So why are you trying so hard to? Well, because I want to be happy. You can't be happy by controlling other people. It doesn't work. It just doesn't. It just doesn't cross over. It doesn't equate. You have to take those variables out of the equation. You have to look at the variables that you can control, which are all internal. They're all within your control, the rest of them. How you interpret data matters. It makes a difference. It makes a difference. And when you start recognizing that it makes a difference, then you start making a difference. And when you start making a difference, you're saying, holy shit, I could actually be happy. I could actually do things differently. I could actually pick a different life, live a different existence. I don't have to be depressed. I don't have to identify as a loser. I could be somebody who's important. You know what I mean? By the way, guys, if I miss any questions or comments, it's not intentional. Please do email me. There is a link in my profile. I personally respond to all my emails, and I put a lot of time into it. Generally, I'm fairly fast these days at that, usually same day, if not, maybe a day later. But I will give you my opinion. I will give you whatever guidance I can. I will try to point you in the right direction if I can't help you any better than that. You know what I mean? Jen says, I'm 44, late diagnosis here. I feel you. I feel you. My oldest client was 84 years old. So don't fret. Okay? Don't fret. People find me in their 60s and their 70s all the time. And they still want to get better. They still wish that they would have found it earlier. But none of that part matters. The wishing I would have found it earlier or how much suffering. I mean, it's sad, right? It's sad. But the ultimate truth here is, do I want to build a life that I will be happy with now? You know, because the past might as well have not even existed. It's gone. Can't touch it, can't feel it. You can't re-experience it. You can think about it. You have memories. But those are there so that you have lessons and you can curate a better world in the future, which also doesn't exist yet. It's one of the hardest parts about this. You know, there's a few features of BPD that make it terribly hard to beat. Okay? And one of them is that I'm either focused all the time on the past that I can't change and the future that I can't change. And I'm looking at them from negative perspectives. Oh my God, I did this stuff. I feel so guilty. That's one of the hurdles in getting better. Part of us not accepting that we have this condition is that we know we've done a lot of wrong stuff. So we don't want to be responsible for it, you know? But you're not really thinking in terms of responsibility. You're thinking in terms of blame and guilt and shame and fault. Why does anybody have to be at fault, truly? I mean, is that really a productive emotion to have? I think that if you did something wrong, you should pay the price. But then when the jail cell opens, you have to get up and step out and say, I'm going to go do something to make this better. But that's not what we do, is it? Oh, well, not me. Go ahead, close the door. I'll stay in here forever. And I would stay in that jail cell that I made, that I built with my own two hands and my own mind. I would stay there forever. Why? Because I'm fucking terrified. You know, I was scared shitless to do something different. I know what has to happen. I have to stop acting this way. I have to stop responding this way. I can't behave like this anymore, or this person's going to leave me, or that person's going to do this, or I'm going to be alone, or this, that, whatever, you know? But I couldn't do anything about it because I told myself I couldn't. Then you have everybody out there freaking out about how BPD can't be fixed, so they say, but it can. And then we're all conditioned to think we're hopeless, right? There's no chance. So that comment that I missed, yeah, okay. I might not be doing as good on the comments. I'll try to focus a little bit more on these. How can a parent help with an adult child that's having a BPD crisis? So, two parts. First part, long term. You must do things differently so that long term the BPD goes away. If you don't, there'll just be another crisis next weekend, as you well know, right? There are things you can do that will help push them in the right direction. And they have to do it on their own. You know, you can't force somebody into a program, a BPD program like the one I do. BPD remission programs are not easy and you have to want it. But there are things that you can do to help them want it, okay? That long-term solution, always got to be thinking about that. And I can help you with that, and we can talk about that. I have a lot to say to you if you're a parent with somebody who has BPD, so please do reach out to me. Click on my profile. There's an email link in there. Tell me some of what's going on. I'll take the time to give you my as thorough of an opinion as I can and point you in the right direction, okay? The second part of that, short term, because we're in the crisis. What do? It's a scary thing. It's scary because of the stuff we say and the stuff that we do and the stuff that we threaten and the mistakes that we make when we have BPD. I call that the consequence zone. The crises are the episodes and the splits. Mostly the episodes, but the splits fall in there too because it's the consequence zone. But we're talking about a crisis. I'm going to presume we're talking about an episode. So voices could be raised, objects could be thrown, they could be beating themselves, pulling their hair, crying, throwing a fit, on the ground, pouting, breaking things, punching holes in the walls, threatening to run away, running away, packing bags, making threats, printing divorce papers, cutting down your partner to try to feel better about whatever it is that happened to you. Those are kind of in the episode category, right? A lot of SH, a lot of I really want to end it all kind of thinking. Those types of thoughts, all that falls into that category. It's hard for you to do anything and have a different outcome, is it not? Because you're damned if you do and you're damned if you don't. I remember one time I was in a really bad episode. I was 22 and my ex-wife was talking to me and I was pissed. And she triggered me, whatever it was. It was her trigger, she was my trigger. And I was yelling at her and I was saying, either call the police and have me arrested or committed, or I'm going to do X, Y, and Z, right? Well, if she calls the police, now I can't trust her. Now I'm mad about that. And she's betrayed me, which is another trigger. And it allows me to continue to act out, to hopefully get what I want out of that, which is never going to happen, which was love and affection and care, right? Which other people call attention, which makes it really hard for us to get over that part. Because every single damn part of this, society has created this world where you're just such an evil person that we desperately don't want to be associated with it, right? We don't want to. But if she didn't call the police, now she doesn't care about me. So she's still going to get the wrath of hell. You see? Damned if you do, damned if you don't. When somebody that you love is in a crisis like that, and this part is triggering to hear if you are at a certain point on the ladder. Like if you haven't reached a certain point on the ladder here, this worries you, okay? It worries you to hear. So please understand that I thought exactly like you thought before, and when I accepted these kinds of things and understood what was happening, I got better, okay? So when you're looking at trying to tell somebody that their behavior is, controlling or manipulative or abusive or something of that nature, and they don't want to be associated with it for these stigmatic reasons, for a condition that you have no control over having, and you have no control over your behavior, bear in mind, right? You prevent yourself from getting better, and you prevent them from getting better. So as much as the internet and social media wants to say, run for the hills, BPD people are abusive and this is a terrible toxic relationship, they don't understand why it's happening, okay? They don't understand. But the truth is, you don't have to engage with us in those moments. And I know that part's scary. If you don't do this, then I'm definitely going to do it. And do it meaning something really awful that you can't revoke, that's life-ending, if you know what I'm saying, right? Well, who the hell's not going to try if they love you, right? But have you really stopped to think about why you approach that person? It's because you know that they love you. I mean, if you were really serious about ending it all, why would you go talk to somebody who you know is going to try to talk you out of it? It's because you're trying to get them to talk you out of it subconsciously to some level, right? And they will do it in most cases until they don't, and then they leave us. So if you don't want to leave your BPD person, you have a kid that's in crisis, nobody wants to leave their kid in crisis, but you also can't enable the behavior. They don't stand a chance of getting better if you enable it. And that part is the triggering part, because the people with BPD here are thinking, well, I don't know what else to do. I don't have anyone. I feel alone, even though you have people. And even though you know that they love you, you think they don't love you. But when you do those kinds of behaviors to get what you want, it doesn't even help anyway. Maybe for a second, but not really. Most of the time after that, you spend days and days feeling guilt and shame and blame and embarrassment. And then you spend time apologizing and trying to make it up to people when they just want to forget it happened. Then you still don't feel good enough. You still don't feel love. You still don't feel care. So they don't even feel the stuff that you're going to give them in that moment, even if they were to embrace you and tell you all the great things you want to hear, you'll feel better right that second. But you really want that all the time. And you're not giving it to yourself. That's why you feel the way you do, because you can't expect other people to be a broken record, right? So it is a case by case basis. And from this point forward, I feel like it would almost be irresponsible of me to give specific pieces of advice because I don't know your specific story. You know what I mean? So please do shoot me an email. Let me know more about what's going on with your child, and I will tell you exactly what I think. Good things to know are their age, how the BPD's been manifesting in their life on a day-to-day basis, not just during the crisis, right? What they do when they have episodes, because there's a bunch of different ways that this manifests. What is at risk? What is at stake? What are they saying? Are they communicating with you? Are they isolating? Have they run away? Do they live with you? Like all these things matter. Are they in a relationship? How old's their partner? Are they supportive? How long have they been together? But I'll walk you through all that. I'll ask the questions that I need to ask in order to give you better advice. So just shoot me an email and say hi if you don't know what else to say. There's a link in my profile, and I'll walk you through it. Very, very much so want to give you whatever help I can. Slime Bitch says, good name. How did you get into BPD treatment? Well, the treatment part, there's a lot of resources for people with borderline personality disorder. The problem is that none of them worked for me. So it wasn't really hard to get into treatment after I accepted that I had the condition. But this is a ladder, and you do have to climb it, and remission is at the top, and at the very bottom is total ignorance. And ignorance is one of those words that has negative connotation. There's nothing wrong with it. I was ignorant to the condition for a long time. I was ignorant to how to fix it. I was ignorant as to how other people were behaving, how they could do that, like how they could just behave normal, even in, this, that, or whatever crisis. All those things mattered, right? Once you're at the place where you want to get better, you have to be sick of your life. You have to be sick of your life. I just need to say that one more time. If you're not sick of your existence the way it is, you will continue to stay there. It's called comfort. It's more comfortable to do things the way you're doing it. It's not the right choice if you're ultimately unhappy, right? And there's things you could do about it. But you have grown comfortable with this behavior, and you have curated a world that supports that. I kept my ex-wife in a marriage for 10 years, treating her poorly with this BPD. It wasn't a good relationship anyway, but that part didn't matter because I was terrified to lose her, right? The sultry overthinker. What are the signs of a good therapist? Damn it, I'm really not that great with these comments, and I really apologize for that. I feel the effects of being an old man right now. That's what's happening. And then when I see like a young kid, even like my 4-year-old niece, pick up something like a tablet, I'm just like, damn it, dude. When you're a kid and you play video games with your parents and they're just like running at the wall and they like don't know how to jump, and you're like, Dad, this is how you do it. You know what I mean? I feel like that all the time now. One of the things, thanks Amit, for those of you who want to be seen or heard or have a comment that you want pinned, please do tag my friend Amit here. He is our moderator. He is Sensitive Stability Coach. You'll see him in the chat. Okay, let's try this again. What are the signs of a good therapist or being on the correct path for yourself? You guys got some really good questions today. I like this because the questions are deeper than the surface. You know what I mean? A lot of people will just say, how do you get help, right? But no, how do you know if this therapist or if someone's going to work or help you, truly help you? I have seen over 16 different mental health professionals. I say over because it's probably more like 26 to 30, but I don't remember the rest of them, okay? I only really could kind of remember and recount about 16 if I try really hard. I did over 4,000 hours of therapy. I've tried all types of therapy. I've sought out DBT specialists. I've sought out BPD specialists. I mean, all sorts of stuff. And I had issues with every single one of those people. In fact, I'll tell you what, I've never had a therapist or a doctor that I felt fully understood me or really cared. I mean, they care, but you know what I'm saying? Like the care that gets you better, the care that we need, because it's very, very specific. I mean, they care, but you know what I'm saying? Like the care that gets you better, the care that we need, because it's very, very specific and very special. I would say if they spend time, this is what I would say. If they spend more time letting you talk than talking themselves, I don't know if it would work. That is my honest to God truthful answer. I think that's a determining factor. I think that's even more important than them having BPD themselves or whatever, right? So having had BPD, I understand people fully. They know that I'm relatable right away, so we get over that barrier instantly. The next thing is I do all the talking in my sessions, and at first, when I first meet with you, which is generally like a 30-minute thing where we're kind of like, are we a good fit to work together sort of thing, right? And that's if I believe you really want it. I get like 500 emails a week. I can't meet with 500 people. I have to identify that you really want this. Otherwise, I'm stealing that opportunity from somebody who's ready, okay? And it's better for me to just point you in the right direction in that case. Go check out my YouTube. There's 30 hours of these lives posted on YouTube. Watch those for a month and then reach out again. Stuff like that. A good therapist or coach or mental health professional of any kind for somebody with BPD is probably somebody who does more talking, because we waste so much time trying to explain ourselves to people. You're already doing that. You're trying to get your partner to understand you. You're trying to get your parents to understand. You're trying to get your friends to understand. But you don't understand. You don't get how I feel. And they don't. They don't. Neither do the mental health professionals treating it, which makes it god-awful impossible for you to take their advice when they say, well, when you go home, you might want to try this. Even if they had useful advice. Well, they don't know. They can't fix this. They don't care. They don't have to live in it. So, whatever, right? And then another therapist bites the dust. You see what I'm saying? But I talk the whole time, for example. It's sometimes it's frustrating to the client. They want desperately to say something, and they're waiting for their opportunity, but I never stop running my mouth. And that's because I know that you need what's in my brain. I don't need what's in your brain. I live the worst condition, BPD condition you can imagine. And when I got into this, I thought, surely there's going to be other people who had a worse time. Am I really able to help people with this? Can I really do this? I was scared. But I thought there was nobody for me. So even if I could help just a couple people, that'd be better than not having tried or not having done anything about it, right? So I went at it and I tried. Turns out I haven't met somebody in over 1,000 clients who was worse than me. It's both good and bad, right? It's bad because it means I suffered tremendously, and I can't believe I made it through that type of weight. It's good because I understand exactly what you're going through, and that's what you need. Somebody who actually understands and will get in the trenches with you. Therapists aren't in the trenches with you. You spend 30 minutes telling them what happened since the last time you saw them. They ask you how you feel. You tell them bad and da-da-da, and it's cathartic and it's beneficial, and I like therapy, and I'll still use therapists even to this day because it's good. It's a good place to be able to walk through your own thoughts in a structured manner. It's the same reason I'm always in school. I'm always a perpetual student. Keeps me structured. Shit's due on Sunday, man. You know what I mean? Got to do it by Sunday. Can't procrastinate. Can't let my mind take over. You see what I'm saying? Okay, so having somebody who's going to hold you accountable, and I mean really accountable, also means being with you all the time. That's why my program includes 24/7 tech support. And I take that shit really seriously. I'm up in the middle of the night all the time. I only sleep a little bit, but I even check my alarm halfway through my phone, set an alarm, check it, make sure nobody's going through a crisis. I do that variably throughout my sleep because I have to be there in those moments. I have to be able to help you through the day-to-day. I shouldn't have to waste time hearing about what happened since the last time I saw you. I should already fucking know what happened, And I should already been helping you through it. And you need more than somebody just in the trenches, too. You also need somebody who, even when you fall down, they're still going to be there with you in the mud. And they're going to pick you back up, and we're going to keep going. Camaraderie. Like genuine love and care is essential in getting part of this fixed, in my opinion. Fast. in order to get it fixed fast, because I didn't have anybody and I got it fixed, but 12 years, you know what I mean? My program is 2 months. And people say, what the 2 months, because you've been dealing with this since you've been like 4, So how the hell, I'm 50 now, how are you going to help me get through this in 2 months? Nobody's ever told you it's possible. In fact, they told you the opposite. There's no way. Well, they tell you there's no way because they don't know. You ever heard of the 4-minute mile barrier? For hundreds and hundreds of years of recorded athletic competition, most notably the Olympics, for example, nobody could run past 4 minutes. The runners, they could not run this mile in under 4 minutes. The best time was like 4 minutes and 1 second. And then we thought it's just humanly impossible. And then one dude did it. He did it. Everybody before that, you can't do that. Your heart will explode, This dude did it. And guess what happened after that? Oh, a whole bunch of people did it. Because now it's possible. Would it be a different world if your doctor, your therapist, and the media and social media, all these places, when you found out you had BPD, they said, you're going to get better. It's totally possible. All you have to do is really focus and you can learn everything. You're going to get better. It's totally possible. All you have to do is really focus and you can learn everything you need to get better. You'd have a different mentality, wouldn't you? What's the one I just missed again? Somebody asked if I'm medicated. No, I'm not. I've tried over 12 different medicines. I'm fairly confident it's over 12. And none of them worked. All of them provided me with side effects I did not like. All my fears in terms of getting better actually only came true when I was on medicine. The fear that I would become a different person. Medicine did that. The fear that I might be a zombie. Medicine did that. The fear that I might eat too much, sleep too much, be lethargic, be lazy, lose my ambition, lose my drive, lose my personality, my charisma. The medicine did that. You know what I'm saying? So I'm not saying don't take medicine, because plenty of people get better on the medicine. But I will say that most of the people who find me are on medicine when they start, right? And most of the people who find me want to get off medicine by the time they're done, if they were on it, and now they're working with their doctor to get off of it at that point. And you have to do that part. People, they hear me say I'm not medicated, it's totally possible, and then they just stop taking their medicine. And then they have a seizure and they literally go to the hospital, right? Because they don't listen to the part where I say you have to taper off. And that's because we're extreme. We want instant gratification. Well, if he could do it, I could do it. Well, I just don't need this. I don't like how it makes me feel. I'm just not going to take it anymore. Well, that's also a BPD thing. If you want to stop taking medicine and get better without it, then do it the right way, because that's how you have to do everything else when you're better. Start there. You see what I mean? Be responsible. Talk to your doctor. Okay? What did I go through to get diagnosed? Well, I didn't get diagnosed until my 11th year of trying to get better. The first couple of years I was in, I kind of knew that something was wrong with me, but I didn't want to admit it. You know what I mean? And then a couple of years, I'm like, I can do this myself. And then a couple of years, I was like, okay, I need help, but I only did it for my partner, and I wasn't serious. And then finally, I'm serious. Now I'm like, uh-oh, there's nobody to help. Like everybody I'm trying to take serious, doesn't work. I'm in trouble. I didn't get it till my 11th year, and I basically diagnosed myself in that office. I mean, I had way more knowledge on BPD than this person, but I was able to convince her to give it to me. And then my life was worse, so I wish I wouldn't have done that. I wish I would have just focused on the behavior. Abney says, I have the biggest problem of not trusting anything anyone says to me. All of us do. There is a study that proved that people with BPD are more distrusting in other people than a neurotypical person. Did you know that? We are scientifically proven to be distrusting. I don't know why that doesn't make sense. Everybody looks at it like it's such a bad thing. It's not a bad thing that bad things happen to you and now you're cautious. How you behave needs to change, and how you think of trust needs to change. And I saw that the person that gave me the diagnosis, I want to say I saw her maybe three times, something like that, maybe two, before she was like, yeah, I agree 100%. But I was controlling that environment I was in, and I couldn't get better there either. You know what I mean? Um, that said, life is already hard. It's already hard. It's already hard. And we're making it harder. We're making it harder. We have to start adopting new ways of thinking. Trust, for example, right? Trust is a choice. It's choice. You have a choice. You can choose to trust or you can choose to distrust. I want to remind you that the risk is the same, no matter what. You know, you're worried about your partner cheating on you, whether you trust them or you don't, they still could cheat on you. But if you don't trust them, they're more likely to because you're now controlling, manipulative, unsupportive, harassing, neurotic, unbearable, really, right? Because you get consumed with this idea that they will cheat on you. So you start to try and prevent it, right? But you still have the same risk of them cheating on you, and now you have all these deficits, and you're also letting it control your life, and you're not making any productive movements, so there's also that. Whereas trust, super simple. I choose to trust this person, period. Well, the risk is the same, but now I'm a supportive, loving, caring, like devoted, understanding individual. I'll take that. And if they end up cheating on me, they end up cheating on me, but at least I was a good person the whole time and I wasn't a manipulative person, right? So start trying to restructure your brain from that sense, and maybe you will get through it a little bit faster. One more time, too, if you guys are not getting your comment pinned or whatever, there's a lot of comments today. Please do email me. I do want to hear from you. I do want to help. Just send me an email. There's a button in my profile. Tell me your story or ask your question, and I'll give you a thorough response. Does BPD really does a BPD person really love, or is it just an illusion? We know we do understand love, and we do love, and our love is real. But that's not how we're behaving and operating. We are operating as if love is something else. That's just like the word trust. We're looking at it wrong. Love is not what you do for people. Love is just an authentic thing. It's a connection. It's a chemistry. And if you're going to do something for somebody, you don't need to do it because you love them. You can do it because it's the right thing to do. There's two different ways of looking at it. When you do it because you love them, you will get things back. When you do it because you're fishing for a compliment or you want them to tell you you're a good husband or whatever it may be, you might get that, but it won't feel like it was worth it. You'll build resentment. You're giving, and they're not, right? They're not able to give as much. Neurotypical people, they give appropriate amounts, and that's it. And that's fine. And that's what you should be doing. And then you get appropriate amounts, which you will love because you'll feel better in the right scenario. And you'll actually feel the love that they give you. You see where I'm going with that? It's not easy to close that gap. It really isn't. But it is simple, like I said. The things that you need to do are simple to do. They're just not easy. And they're scary. And I understand that part, but life is scary. So we are starting to hit the end of our live for this for today. So I know that there's a lot of questions I wasn't able to get to. Please do come back tomorrow. We go live Monday through Friday, 7 a.m. US EST. Maybe Friday. I can start making Fridays more comment oriented only. So there's no bearing topic that I have to try to stay focused on. And then maybe more comments will get answered. But if I did miss it, please do email me. I don't want people to feel alone in this, and you're not. That's the truth. You're not alone in this. There are a lot of people just like you who are struggling just like you, and that goes for all of you. Thank you, Angela. I appreciate you. Whether you are a partner, whether you are a parent, a friend, whether you're a kid, or if it's you that might have BPD, there are people just like you who show up here every day, and there are people all over the world that deal with this. I know it feels very lonely. I know that. I know it does. And I know it's been difficult because no matter what position you're in of all the ones I listed, you still feel damned if you do and damned if you don't, even if you have BPD. You know? You feel that way. That's part of it. Why wouldn't you, though? You've been operating this way your whole life and things haven't been going well. Why would you be optimistic? So that's why it feels like there's no hope. But there is. Okay? If somebody like me can do it, anybody can. Anybody can do it. I would do the most atrocious things that I would regret forever. You know? I was losing people left and right. I felt like nobody cared. I felt like nobody loved me. Well, what's the point? Why stick around in an environment like that? I just didn't understand how much of it I was curating myself. I wish I knew how much I was creating of this miserable existence. I wish I understood that. It was much easier to blame everybody else and everything else. And and that's because blame is very difficult when bad things have happened from an early age and you had no control, and now you do, right? So let's tighten the valves and make sure nothing ever hurts us. But the problem with living that way is there's no joy. You'll control everything. Every single part of every single facet of your life will be manipulated and controlled and influenced by borderline personality disorder until you decide to take it back. Your whole future is already owned, just like your past. This very moment, owned, just like your past. And you guys are very welcome. I can't imagine doing anything else with my life at this point. I really understand what it's like to think and feel the way you do. And it drives me mad to know how many people are feeling that way. And it's even more heartbreaking when they're trying to get help. Like if you're in this live right now, why the hell would you ever listen to me talk? I am super annoying. You know what I mean? You're doing it because you're like, shit, this guy understands. And you also know that I know how to get out of it, and I do. So, guys, don't be hard on yourself for what's happened. You did the best you could with what you had. Now, you have to do the best you can with what you have today, which should be more if you're moving in the right direction, right? I love you all. I'm glad you're here. I think good things are going to happen today. I believe that good things will happen today. So be easy on yourself, and I will see you bright and early, 7 a.m. tomorrow. Thank you for being here, and thank yourself for being here too. Do something fun today. Do something relaxing, but also do something challenging. Have a good one, and I will see you tomorrow.